Hello, everybody. We're coming into you on Friday, November 22nd. Apologies for the delay, but it was only to accommodate our guest, who we wouldn't want to do this episode without. So bear with us. We are talking to the King, Bryan Quinby, about the King of Tulsa, Dwight Manfredi. Bryan, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. There's like a new type of TV show that I think I love more than anything now, where it's never in doubt that the main character is going to come out on top. There's never even a second
Bryan,
where you're like,
I was going to introduce this. I want to introduce. We're wrapping up season 2 of Tulsa King, and like you, Bryan, I love this show, and I was trying to figure out why I love this show, and to introduce, to get us rolling today. I was thinking about this, and I want to bring it full circle. I want to bring it back to where it all began. That's right. The Sons of Anarchy. And I compare these two shows because Catherine and I are rewatching Sons of Anarchy right now. She's never seen it before. But I just have both shows on my brain. And I don't mean to compare them to say, oh, Sons of Anarchy is good and Tulsa King is bad. But I do want to set up this essential distinction between them. And that is the essential, the thesis of Sons of Anarchy that is played out over 7 seasons of that show is that if you are involved in a criminal lifestyle, if you live in the underworld of crime and the people who do it, essentially every decision you make, good or bad, causes even greater harm to you. There is no way out, and any disaster that is averted, even in the short term, causes a much greater, more evil long-term problem, that there is essentially no escape. And I say that to set up the contrast with Tulsa King, which seems to just be about how doing crime, not only does it pay, but you always make the right decision and it works out good for everyone involved, even your enemies.
Yeah, we talked about it last time during our sort of mid-season recap, but at this point, there is no circumstance that I could see Dwight, the General Manfredi, or his, we love this term, multiracial working class crew of criminal affiliates, though they're probably now upper class, given that Dwight has enriched them through zero risk crime. But there's no situation where I would be like, oh no, I don't think Dwight could get out of this one. Yeah. If an asteroid the size of the sun was heading towards Earth, I'd be like, okay, Dwight is gonna cut a hole in a fence and put sugar in the gas tank of a NASA administrator, and somehow that's gonna blow the asteroid up. There's nothing. You could shoot him in the head with a Davy Crockett man-portable nuke, and I'd be like, oh, he was wearing a helmet.
Yeah. It's like Reacher's the same thing. It's from minute 1 of whatever the season is, you're like, well, Reacher's going to win. You know what I mean? And then there's never a time during the show. There was never a time during this season of Tulsa King where I was like, oh, how's Dwight going to wriggle his way out of this one? Because there's never a time where he's not the smartest guy in the room. And that's my favorite thing, because when a guy this is just Stallone's career. He was always the toughest guy in the movie. He's always trying to be the toughest guy. And he was like, you know what? It's not good enough just to be the toughest guy. I got to be the smartest guy.
Yeah. The dyad that it makes with Sons of Anarchy, that is such a great comparison, because the Sons, I mean, their defining characteristic is that they kind of suck at crime.
Stupid men.
The Sons could they could have a scheme literally to rob a lemonade stand, and it would result in 3,000 dead. And they would be in the hole for $47. It is, Sons of Anarchy is a great show, but it's high anxiety viewing. Whereas Tulsa King, I would even say that I've been a big proponent of bringing back the butterfly net system for the crazies. I think once we catch them with the butterfly net, that's the only harsh part of my program. They should watch Tulsa King and it will calm them down. They'll be like, well, maybe podcasts are setting me numbers to make me assassinate the president, but I could just get out of it like Dwight.
But Sons of Anarchy all make $20,000 a year. Nothing that they do is successful at all. They've never had a success ever. So it is really funny to say, what if we did that, but all the success is going to the criminal.
If the Sons of Anarchy attempted to, as Dwight Manfredi and his crew do on this season of the show, open up a wind turbine farm so that they can provide power to a hydroponic marijuana grow facility, so essentially they won't have to pay for energy and they can have 100% profit. If the Sons of Anarchy attempted to do that, one of them would end up seeing their child set on fire in front of them, and then the rest of them sent to prison to be tortured for the rest of their lives. Whereas on this show, basically, like there is no adversary on this show that like is a heavyweight at all. Like for instance, the Cal Thresher character, who was set up this season, I thought to be the main antagonist. He is intimidating for maybe 30 seconds of that show before being revealed to be a completely washed dunce who poses no threat whatsoever to anyone save for himself.
Yeah,
like his plotline on this series is like, I think, a metaphor. Like this is what I love Tulsa King, because it's a perfect show for the times we're in now. And it's hard for me not to just read the easy thing about how Stallone is a Trump supporter, and this show is a metaphor for like the positive vision of Trump's America. Because on this show, all of the people you think are evil bad guys, like Frank Grillo or the guy from Band of Brothers, are in fact just dudes like Dwight who are trying to make their way in this world, earn a little bit of money, and really give back to the community. The bad guys on this show are some Chinese guys that are introduced like halfway through the season, and then are like, they're the main adversaries. But then they're really only adversaries for about 5 minutes before, in a climactic moment, all of them walk into an ambush and are killed almost instantly.
That was like, I rewatched that scene several times, not entirely because it's one of the darkest, I mean, in the most literal sense, darkest as in I can't see anything scenes ever depicted on a TV show that people actually watched. I just like, you know, we're all veteran TV heads here, and we know what to expect, but they built up this guy Ming so much. And, like, Ming's signature crime this season was talking to Thresher, the billionaire who is going head to head with a 95-year-old ex-convict for some reason. And getting a bunch of guys to like point guns at him and make him sign a contract that's like, we own your business now. Which, how did no one ever try that before in the world of Tulsa King? I don't know if it's just that easy. But
do I need this notarized? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't it $1,000 too? I love
He
that it was $1,000.
$1,000 for this billionaire's weed concern. And then, like, the entire season, they talk about how crazy he is. They set up like a little subplot with Dwight's guys and him. And then, like, I don't even think they were on the scene of the ambush for 2 seconds before all of them got instantly obliterated by like an all-woman knife squad that we've never seen before.
It was also very funny that the guy that led them into the ambush was a guy that robbed Dwight, but just couldn't go through with it.
Yes.
It said, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to do that.
And I mean, like, another aspect of like this sort of friction and consequence-free world of crime that this show depicts that I really love is like, you know, Contra, Sons of Anarchy, or other shows like that, where like everything is just like an agonizing moral decision in which you are just further implicated in great evil, and you feel like your head is just in a vice that is tightening every moment. This is like last season, Dwight shows up in Tulsa, and within 2 weeks has clocked the entire city and just has several profitable criminal concerns going, but also a kind of mentorship program for the wayward citizens of Tulsa who just haven't had a real criminal to teach them things about, you know, like how to do crime with class and respect. But one of my favorite aspects of this season is like when it cuts back to the crew in Brooklyn, you know, Chicky and Vince. And like Chicky is the closest thing to like an actual adversary for Dwight. But like most of the second half of the season is like Chicky's New York crew being like, this guy, he's not the guy anymore. He's got to go. He's got to go, and we all know what that means. And then like they're like, do you mean kill him? And they're like, no, there are other ways to get rid of a boss. Like sitting him down at a table and explaining that he's, quote, lost the locker room and he should voluntarily step aside for new leadership just so that, like, the fans of their crew could have a little faith that they, could have something. Maybe they'll get like a good draft pick in the Mafia draft next season.
That was literally like how you fire someone from a podcast.
It is so... Like the Chicky thing is so they didn't threaten him or anything, and then it looked like, oh my God, he's going to be the big adversary. He's the final boss in the episode. He just gets shot in the fucking head in like 2 seconds, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, I guess that wasn't a big deal either, Like the whole last episode being about Chicky, like getting one over.
Yeah, he takes a bus to Oklahoma and is like, Dwight, I know I wanted to kill you before, but like you got a good thing going out here, and I just want you to be part of the New York crew. We could do this Tulsa thing. We could do it in Oklahoma City. We could do it in Sedona, New Mexico. We could do it all over this shithole country. And then Grillo just shoots him in the head.
Yeah,
and he's I'm wondering if you think that this is accurate. All of Dwight's adversaries on both seasons of Tulsa King are gimmick bosses. They're bosses that may look intimidating, but there's just like one weird trick you do and their entire health bar is obliterated.
Yeah. That is a great analogy. All of them have a glowing red spot in the back of their head. Whenever Dwight sees them, there's like flavor text that pops up that's like, oh no, don't shoot me in the back of my head. That's my only weakness. I want to go back to something that Will said about sort of this being a fantasy of Trump's America, and specifically the comment of how frictionless Dwight's life is. That is, I keyed in on something that I wonder if you guys did as well, that this is kind of like in the same way that I don't know, what's a lived out show that people loved during the Trump administration. The first one.
The Newsroom is the one I can think of, but I think that was pre-Trump.
Well, Newsroom is a good example of this type of thing, but it's like, it is a fantasy for like at least Trump amicable people who watch this. But also Dwight is such a unique character because he's almost like, he's more like a manic pixie dream girl.
Yes.
That he is like a tough crime boss. Like there are so many times where he fulfills like a Zooey Deschanel role. And I realize that the fantasy of everyone who watches this show, and probably like 200 million Americans, is for like a sagely wizened crime boss to like pull them aside and like see their potential in the field of crime, and along the way, help them self-actualize and get the girl they like. Dwight is like, there are so many things he says where he sounds like an insane woman. He's bringing like whimsy to these people's dreary lives. I expected him to be like, would you still love me if I was a worm?
There's some really good stuff when when they're all driving in the truck and he's high on a lollipop and he's fucking, because everybody's on weed. Everybody's just high.
They love weed in this show.
They do. They love, and they try to be so. I love the dedication to trying to make it authentic, where they're like, this is elderberry. Because every time you go to a dispensary now, it's like, this is an elderberry gummy that not only gets you high, but it also like makes your alkaloids go up or something. I don't know, but they do that a lot through the episode. But I do want to say that like this season was great because every other criminal in the show was like, Dwight, you're the greatest earner in the history of the mafia.
Yeah.
Yeah, they literally said that at one point. This guy's a legend. There's nobody who earns like Dwight does.
We can't kill him. He's great. He's perfect.
It makes too much. I mean, like, I like when they say, like, oh, we can't kill him. He just earns too much money. But the reason they want to kill him is because he's not kicking any of that money back to New York. So that would seem to me to be like more of a reason to kill someone, despite how much money they're making. But like, maybe that's because that's because I am brainwashed by the old paradigm of gangster movies and crime films. And to a certain degree, this show is just a collection of shop-worn mafia cliches, because like half the dialogue is like, hey, what the fuck you talking about? You questioning my authority over here? But that being said, what it's actually doing is, I think, a totally, like I said, a totally novel subversion of those tropes by just being like, actually, these guys are actually quite good fellas. They're good men, basically, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, no one is irredeemable lest they be Chinese.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That is the message of the show, that everyone, it doesn't matter if you are like a bitter, abusive drunk who robs Dwight and then goes to your former place of work, presumably to kill every single person there. You're just like one heartfelt speech away from turning it around. Offer does not apply to Han Chinese.
Yeah. I mean, I love the storyline of, and I can't ever remember any guy's name, but the dude that does rob Dwight, and they're like, he'll never be able. They're like, he'll never be able to hide. And it's like, he could go to Mexico and they would literally never find him. Like, how would Dwight find a guy in Mexico? But he would actually find a guy in Mexico if that had come down to it. That's why he had to turn around. And then, like, I'm hoping he gets back with his family. Doesn't get tied up at all. He's like, I'd like to get my job back so I can get my family back. I was
and he gets his job back, too.
Yes.
That sums up to be like everything with this show. Like, there is, like, it's so funny because, like, violence happens. Like, people are killed. But, like, nothing, how do I say this? People are killed, but nothing bad happens to anyone on the show outside of a few characters who, like, are. I guess Jimmy the Creek, their sort of native weed contact. He unfortunately meets his end this season, but that's it. And like the scene where Tyson gives his dad Stallone's Lincoln Navigator and there's a bomb inside of it, and the episode ends on a cliffhanger where the car blows up, I was like, oh shit, this show is introducing the concept of consequences. Like, hey, maybe pursuing a life of crime has horrible effects on you and your family. But no, like the next episode, the dad is just like, looks like he fell down like a stair. Looks like he sprained his ankle in the hospital. He's like, hey, son, it's good to see you back here. Thanks for the car. Sorry, it blew up.
Yeah. It serves to bring his family back together.
Yes.
There was almost a moment of conflict there where the son there's a bunch of dramatic scenes where he's at his dad's bedside and he's like, I'm going to kill the guys who did this. And they're really playing it up, but the drama is sort of tempered by the fact that the son is dressed like Bruno Mars. He had to put on like a silk vest and like a fedora with 3 buckles on it to go to the hospital.
Well, they go to the big party at the beginning and get suits, and from that point on, Tyson is in a suit for the rest of the thing.
He never takes it off. He dresses like he's presumably going to dress like Bruno Mars for the rest of the fucking series.
Right.
But there's like initially a little drama there where his mom is like, you're just like gonna go into a life of crime. We've lost you. It's almost like sort of like a kitchen sink, like it's like Baby Boy or something, like a kitchen sink black drama from like the 2000s or 90s, except instead of like gangs or something, their dominant fear is that their son would always fall in with a 95-year-old mafioso. Like, that's something that every black family worries
there are
about.
Bad neighborhoods in Tulsa where people do crimes, but it's just like, no, he happened to give a ride to Dwight Manfredi once, and now you look like a gangster, son. And you think his mom might be mad at him because of like his actions nearly killed his own father, but like, no, the dad is like, being nearly killed in mafia violence taught me one thing: I nearly lost my life. I don't want to lose my family. And then the mother's like, all is forgiven, son. All is forgiven for Tyson. All is forgiven from Armin for his betrayal. And you'll remember there's a part where Tyson, Felix, like you mentioned, like he's like, I've never killed anyone, but like these guys came at my family. And if I don't stand on this, like I'll never be a man. They came at my father. That's my blood. And then like the Garrett Hedgeland character, the sort of like the cowboy country singer guy who buys the car dealership.
I love him.
He tells Tyson, he's like, look, I've done hard time. And I'm going to tell you, like, if you're talking about killing people, like once you do that, you can never go back. Like if you kill someone, it's going to fuck you up for the rest of your life. You're going to see their face every time you like close your eyes and your head hits the pillow. And you're like, okay, like seems to be introducing a note of reality there. Then when they get Ming and he's like totally at their mercy, Stallone hands him a tomahawk that their Native American friends gave them to mete out revenge on the guy responsible for killing Jimmy the Creek. And like he holds it for a second and I just think like, hey, he's going to pass it off. Like he's not really about this life. Nope. He plants it firmly in the guy's forehead and just walks away and is like, yeah, I did the right thing.
Yeah.
It's just
like next season, there might be like one scene where he wakes up like having a nightmare about it, but then like they're going to find like a strain of weed that helps with PTSD and we'll never hear about it again.
I don't think he's ever going to think about it. I would guess. And there's another weird thing that happens too is the woman. Well, first of all, Dwight is he's got a girlfriend this season that's not a cop. But like also her horse, the horse stables, there's this girl that works there that is the worst actor in the entire world. Like that it feels like English as a second language is going on or something like that. And like the dude just yells at her and then she's like, you're in charge of the horse place now. And she's like, oh, I don't feel like doing that. I'm just going to move on. Like she quits the stables. That was very weird to me too. Cause it felt like, okay, like she's not even like really in the show. She's there so that guy can yell at somebody.
Yeah, that girl is such a weird character because it's like, is she like does Hawk Tuah have body doubles like Saddam? And is that one of them? It's the only purpose I could see her serving. But yeah, the guy who yells at her, I think we have to look at him as sort of like a window into the souls of the actual dominant viewers of this show. The scene where after he like throws a tantrum in the stables and is about to rob Dwight, where he calls his sons. I don't know how relatable this is to people, but like if you've ever had a dad who's like he messed up, you know? Like maybe he didn't kill somebody or commit a crime, but he like, he like fucked up in some way. And they have to like call upon every movie and book they've ever read to like deliver sort of like an emotional speech to their children. And it's just like, they don't have it. They're waiting for this moment their entire lives. And their speech is like, listen, I know times are really hard, but like, you're my son. And it's like that. Whoever wrote that scene, it's like you were just intimately acquainted with having a dad who screws up. That was great.
The most heartbreaking moment of that scene is like right when he's about to get off the call and he's like drunk in his car, leaving a voice message for his like 7-year-old son. And he's like, you're a big guy now and I can talk to you like a man. So you should know your dad's a failure and is probably going to kill himself. But right when he gets on the phone with him, he says, like, all I think about is like, we had good times and I want you to remember those. But I'm beginning to get the impression that when you think about me, all you'll think about is this phone call. Anyway, gotta go. Bye. I was like, oh God.
Yeah. It's just, like it's perfect. It's like way too weighty for a 7-year-old, but then he just like leaves him with a few truisms like family's really important. And that is just elite bad dad writing.
And your future, what is like your check always comes due. It sounded like everything's written by seemingly the same person because there's no real difference between him and Dwight other than Dwight is better than he is at everything.
He's Dwight's Frank Grimes.
Yes, Armin. Oh my God, Armin is Dwight's Frank Grimes.
Yeah,
but Frank Grimes dies in The Simpsons. Like he has to die. Armin lives and is still in the crew at the end of the show. Nothing bad happens to him. Yes.
No.
All is forgiven.
Armin has to live because, like, The Simpsons is a like kind of a cruel world. Tulsa King is like again, like you said, people die in the show, but it's one of the most consequence-free worlds ever.
Yes.
Armin has to live so the viewer feels like that they have, like, that the redemption is in the cards for them,
They killed the one guy in the crew that wasn't around that much anyway. Like he it feels like that was the guy they brought in to kill. And then they had Tyson's dad, where they could blow him up. They don't kill him. But you knew from the beginning. I thought Frank Grillo was going to get killed.
Yeah.
But he lives
Brian,
too.
I thought Cal was going to get killed. I want to talk about the Cal Thresher character played by Neil McDonough from Band of Brothers and Justified. You see him in a show, you're like, oh, that's the villain. And the first, we talked about their hilarious dialogue between him and Stallone. I tried to recreate it on the first episode, but I actually transcribed the dialogue from episode 5 of this show. So Cal Thresher, the Oklahoma billionaire he's an Oklahoma oil billionaire who is somehow also involved in the weed industry, and it's really important to him that one 90-year-old Italian man not make any profit selling marijuana in the state of Oklahoma. So he comes by Dwight's girlfriend's ranch, the horse ranch, because he has horses there too, and he knows Dana Delaney. And he steps up to Dwight and he goes, Mr. Manfredi, I see we're both here breaking fillies. And then Dwight says, I'm gonna break your fucking jaw if you don't stop interfering in my fucking business. And he goes, oh, Mr. Manfredi, just the other week you were the one rhapsodizing about the virtues of competition. And he goes, good competition, not the shit you're trying to pull. You're in so far over your head, you have no fucking idea with the world you're fucking with. That's where you're wrong. You're in so far over your head, not me.
That's why he makes the big bucks.
Yeah. So you have this guy, he's got the icy blue eyes, he's got the bleach blonde hair, he's this fake cowboy billionaire type who's doing nefarious dealings with Chinese triads from New York who are growing opium on his marijuana fields and using slaves to do it. You're like, okay, this guy's evil. He's the series antagonist. Even the villain gets a redemption arc. Because I was expecting Dwight to kill him for certain. It was either going to be him or Grillo. Him and Grillo live. And at the end of the show, they basically all work together. Yeah. And then at the end, the last episode, the last sort of showdown between Dwight and Cal Thresher is Cal is totally at his mercy. Dwight has intervened on his behalf to take care of his Chinese problem. Yeah. By that I mean killing everyone who used to work for him. And then he's trying to dictate terms or whatever. And Dwight's I'd be well in my rights to fucking kill you right now. And he's like, oh, Mr. Manfredi, you won't do that. Please be serious. And then he fronts, he's like, hey, Bigfoot, shoot this motherfucker in the head. And then he doesn't. And then he walks away, but not before Dwight imparts another valuable piece of mentorship and life advice, where basically this guy who's tried to kill him multiple times has fucked with his business, fucked with his money, and spilled blood. He's like, guys like you, they don't belong in this world with guys like me. I'm a gangster. If you try to do gangster stuff, if you try to do crime, you're going to get hurt. So just stick to doing the rich guy stuff and leave the crime to me. And then he's like, thanks, I'll do that.
That's
and
fair.
Walks away. Yeah, that's fair.
Which it raises the question of why was this billionaire so intent on making probably an extra $60,000 a year from highly illegal crimes?
Selling apes.
Yeah. I love it. I love every because he's at the beginning, he's like, you need to get these opium fields out of my property. And the guy's like, no. And he's like, all right, well, I tried.
He's such a pushover. It's amazing. This entire war that he fucking has with Dwight, it happened because Dwight and his crew of imbeciles planned an inorganic meet cute with him at a casino. And Dwight was like, hey, I hear you're the guy to talk to in town. And he's like, well, I hear you're coming for me with your vape shop and one illegal weed plant and your pending wind farm deal that doesn't make sense to anyone.
That is great. He's just a guy at the beginning is like, hey, there's a fucking, I did this wind farm scam. And Dwight's like, wind farm scam? I'm in. Completely takes it over and is like, hey.
Have you guys ever seen the show John from Cincinnati?
Oh, of course. I don't know, but instead.
Yeah, it reminds it. Dwight is almost like John from Cincinnati because you know how in that show John can just like any object of desire he could just pull out of his pockets.
Yeah,
like there's this magical realism element. That's what Dwight's crimes are like. Like
yes,
like any object of desire, like a wind farm. Okay, let's go to a bank and steal pens. Within 10 minutes, we'll have a $20 million loan to buy the fucking wind farm. Oh, we need transportation. Let's cut a hole in the fence of the car dealership. Now we own the car dealership.
Yes.
Exactly.
They do. The country music guy does own the car dealership. The country music guy that owns the bar, who is like Dwight's number 3, because there's the other gangster from New York that's his number 2. Because like in the thing, in order to be at the top of the gang, that's New York. You gotta be Dwight or the other New York guy. And then after that, Tulsa guys come in, and that's where the country music guy that just like kind of sings tush a couple times during the when they're having a party or something over some victory that Dwight has pulled off.
You know, and it's like they keep introducing characters like we mentioned Annabella Sciorra plays Dwight's sister, and she shows up in Tulsa. Dwight's daughter and grandkids show up in Tulsa. But like whether it's the cowboy guy who owns the bar and now the car dealership, or poor Martin Starr. And I don't want to be critical of a show that I like very much, but it does seem like a lot of these ancillary characters, they really had no. I mean, we mentioned this in the first episode about this season, but they really like just didn't have much for any of the other characters to do. Like Martin Starr is just really kind of in the background this season. And like he just shows up in like kind of like here and there to just be like, Dwight, I'm working on the wind farm, like, and it's just like he'll just make a snarky comment, but like he's never really in any danger, nor is he involved in any plot that is like essential towards, what happens on the show. He's just sort of there. And then like the cowboy guy is like, okay, his plot arc this season is buying a car dealership, and he does with no problem.
Yeah. The car dealership that they stole all the catalytic converters from and then returned half of them. I was like, I wanted to know the logistics of the returning of the catalytic converters, because you chop those off and then he was going to have to install the other half of them. Like that guy, his whole story is also like pretty consequence free. Like he's kind of a dick at the beginning. He's a racist guy at the beginning. And then by the end of the season, it's like, I sold all my cars and now I don't have a car dealership anymore and I just have a ton of money. Like his whole thing ended up perfectly. Like he even was a guy in Dan Bacadol, that character too. Like he's a dick to Dwight twice, and then he sees Dwight on TV and he's like, you're great. What a great man.
I think we figured it out. Or like, tell me if I'm onto something here. Dan Bacadol, the cowboy guy, and Armin. These all represent like archetypes of Trump voters, or like Tulsa King watchers, basically. Like middle American archetypes. Cowboy guy represents racism, being disinvited from your own Thanksgiving because of tirade you went on. The Armin, it's obvious that he represents like, being an alcoholic, being a bad dad, being a fuck up. And Dan Bacadol represents like, I guess like HOA nosiness.
Sort of suburban tyrant.
A pussy too. Like kind of a pussy though, that has some authority. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And all of these, they're all like, who is the thief that was crucified next to Christ?
Barabbas.
They all form a single Barabbas. That
they have to be let off the cross.
Yeah, Dwight, he doesn't even suffer for their sins. I mean, Dwight succeeds for their sins.
Yes. That is such a good way of putting it. Dwight succeeds on behalf of others' sins and their fallen nature. And the fallen nature of man and America is redeemed by Dwight's many, many wins. Not any sacrifice he's made, just his successes. And this is where I go back to, like, I think the show is the perfect sort of like crystal like embodiment of like the projection of Trump's America. And like, again, that's an easy thing to say, but Dwight is such a perfect analog for Donald Trump because, like, if you want to talk about consequence free, I just saw that the New York Southern District has postponed indefinitely any sentencing for Donald Trump. And it's like, that is a total Dwight Manfredi thing to have happen, where it's like, it seems like he's in trouble for a half a second. And then it's just like, oh, he's elected president. That's over. Oh, well.
Yeah, the day after election day, the only thing I could think, like, I was just like, rich guys just always win, and they will always win. Like, that's the lesson of this show too.
But not only does it portray a world, like, I get it, it does a revolutionary thing, and it is a television show that literally shows that crime pays and is good for you and is good for the community.
Yeah.
And like, I think about there's one moment on the show where the Ming character, the closest thing the show has to a villain, you know, an evil celestial who's polluting America, who came here as an immigrant. And there's a moment where like Ming, I think, really like gets to the heart of what this show's about, where he talks about how he came over here as like a refugee and would like spend years just like washing dishes for like pennies. But he was like, you know, I bided my time, I waited and I watched and I learned about Americans. And Cal's like, oh, what'd you learn about Americans? Like, very glibly. And he's like, I learned that they're lazy and spoiled. And that, like, they don't have the will to be ruthless like I can. Because, like, I came here with nothing. And, like, you know, I have the drive. And I think, like, it speaks to this fear that I think, like, Trump is very adept at, like, sort of speaking to, this idea that, like, we've gotten soft as a nation. But sort of conversely, the show depicts like not hard men who are willing to be ruthless, but just like men who do crimes and suffer no consequences. And in doing so, redeem the nation, redeem America, and like connect us with the class, respect, and a certain way of doing things back in the old ways. But like, that's not through any real grit or determination or like hard grafting or even like hard living or consequences or violence. It's just sort of like, you just see what you want and you do it. And, you know, like, yeah, people may die, but, like, it's not really a problem for anyone. And even your enemies are redeemed by you and learn a valuable life lesson just from their association in trying to compete with you or best you in some way.
Yeah. The only reason that anyone could possibly think that we're soft or that you're soft is because everything is so incredibly easy to you. But
Exactly.
yeah, like even in armed conflict, you can produce your own night witches. Your own.
They didn't lose a single guy in that either. None.
No.
0 guys. They easily killed every single guy in the Chinese gang, like in seconds. It was just the easiest thing in the world. There were like 100 guys with guns, like.
They were rolling up with like AKs.
Yeah.
And like everything you've been led to believe before. It's like, oh, these are the inscrutable, ruthless Chinese. Human life has no value to them. They're cold-blooded killers. Like, you know, like, and it's just like, nope, done, easily dispatched with no difficulty whatsoever.
The other great American thing in this was the way Ming dies. We get to see a decent amount of time of him begging to not be killed. Like, he's all of a sudden like scared.
See? The Chinese, it's all talk. It's all talk with them. They're not actually ruthless. And they're not actually really thinking 1,000 years in the future. They're just, you know, just walk them into an ambush and kill them. It's easy.
But we want to see our enemies suffer. Not only suffer, but we want to see our enemies say, you were right about everything. I'm really sorry about that. And then die.
And the thing about that is, like, yeah, our enemies may seem scary, but that's only when we are as individuals who are just potheads from Tulsa, Oklahoma, or just an Uber driver. What we need is a leader. We need a leader to like channel the will, the body politic into to impose a kind of revolutionary discipline on the masses. And that figure is Dwight the General Manfredi.
Did you guys notice this aspect of Ming's character they introduced probably, I would say, halfway through the season, right before he sort of betrays Neil McDonough? He starts dropping like Art of War style pearls of wisdom in all of his scenes. Like, I like wrote down like 3 times where he's just like doing exposition with Neil McDonough, and he'll just randomly say something like, "When your enemy is downhill, you don't have to walk as fast."
He's like, also, when you have a snake, don't cut off its tail, cut off its head because that will kill it.
Yeah. I also love that the second Dwight gets a whiff that the Chinese are involved, he's like, it's the triads. What they're going to do is they're going to set up all the stuff and then they're going to make him sell his farm for $1,000. They do it every time. We know what they're going to do. Like he called it.
What, China is buying up farmland in America. I hear about that all the time. I hear about it all the time.
That's how they're doing it too. They're going to like good-hearted farmers and bringing a bunch of triads and making them sign it away for $1,000.
They're finding the nastiest rich guy in town and stealing all of his stuff, like living off of him, I guess. Like I did like Thresher in that, like there's never like he meets Dwight. It's contentious right away. He goes to the attorney general and he's like, you gotta fucking win this case. And the attorney general loses immediately. I'm like, episode 3.
Another dub in episode 2 of the show has been like, we gave it our best, but we couldn't get this like 90-year-old man out on parole back in prison for any reason.
This gangster that's representing himself too, which is also very, very Trump, as in like, this guy can just go on stage and talk and people will just be like, yeah, sure, whatever. You know what I mean? He makes me happy. I don't know what you want me to say. That's how he seemed to win that case at the beginning of the movie or the series.
Yeah, like the federal conviction rate is like 96%. And Dwight's defense is just like, would you say that you came a lot when you had sex with me?
Yeah.
And everyone in the court is like, we've heard enough.
Wait, so what's the difference? Oh, I'm sorry. It's a gift, not a bribe. That is such regular fucking guy at work understanding of how the legal system works, that like you can just go and stand there and say something that's not really logical and doesn't really make sense, but then look really confident about it and boom, you're off. You can get away with it. Like that is the other thing that Dwight, I think, because I like Reacher a lot also because he's like the smartest guy in the room. But he kind of
the strongest and most unkillable guy in the room too.
Yeah, but he has a kind of like a weirdly intelligent, like when he figures something out, he has like the whole explanation figured out, mapped out.
He's like the world's greatest detective in addition to being the world's largest, most dangerous man.
Yes. With Dwight, like nothing he says ever sounds smart, but it's delivered by a guy who firmly believes that what he's saying is completely intelligent. And that's what I think grabs me more about Tulsa King, is that like, it is like a really dumb guy's idea of what a really street smart guy is, like what they believe to be street smart. And like that, I think that's what grabs me more than anything, is like, because you'll meet a lot of guys out there who are like, I'm street smart. And it's like, no, you're just stupid. Like,
yeah.
Brian, do you remember the scene where they visit like the sort of like elite private school that Stallone's daughter wants to send his grandkids to? Yeah. And it's like the first 5 minutes of the episode is like, you could smell this coming a mile away. But it's this like, very, very crunchy daycare where like, not daycare, but like, middle school where they're like self-expression and creativity are our most important values here. And then, Dwight's walking around being like, oh, wait, would you teach knife fighting here or something? Or what about, hey, you got to learn math about how to do the VIG, right? How do I know who owes me money? And then they're like, oh, like, well, athletics are very important. He's like, oh, you got a football team? And they're like, oh, Lord, no, that's too violent. We have a basketball and swimming team, though, but, like, we don't actually this is what I love the writing on the show. They say, like, we have a basketball team, but we don't keep track of the score. We stress passing over shooting. And he's like, how are you going to know who wins the game? And then Dwight suggests to his daughter and the principal of this school, this like very exclusive school they're trying to apply to. He's like, good kids learn reading, writing, arithmetic, but they never go really use it. Why do you have a class about street smarts? He's like, a lot of these kids out here, they're going to encounter situations, some guy's trying to press up on them, they won't know what to do. So he literally suggested, and I'm hoping next season, like, he actually becomes like a teacher emeritus and teaches like a class on street smarts to like, Gen Alpha pussies who are just like been taught that like, self-expression and creativity are important, where it's like, no, you gotta learn how to never snitch on nobody and stand up for yourself.
What Brian said about like Dwight representing himself and just his way of like verbalizing against the world, it's almost like it's a perfect inversion of like West Wing and Newsroom, because those shows are about how if the content of what you're saying is strong enough, if the exact thrust of your point and the data and the facts are there are unimpeachable, then you can change anyone's mind and therefore you can save the world. Tulsa King inverts that by going, the content doesn't really matter, because what Dwight is always saying is something like, well, there's more than one ways to peel an apple, but the confidence and style and form of it is so powerful that he can get out of anything. You save the world by like winning every gunfight somehow. But
an argument though too. That's the thing. He wins every argument, but nothing he ever says really makes sense. Like, he comes off in this season, I think I said the last season, he comes off as old, like so old. Now he comes off as even old. Like, I didn't think he could seem older, but he seems so old this season that I'm actually kind of worried, because the way this ends.
No, we can talk about the cliffhanger.
Yeah, just the way this ends. So I don't know what's gonna happen.
And it's like the way it ends is so funny, because like we talked about how like this show is just an unblemished record of Dwight batting 1,000.
Yeah,
like everyone loves him. He's never wrong. Somehow, like, just any situation he's in, he is not like there's in no way is he ever disempowered or not in control. And then like the season ends with like they have a big party at the bar, and they're like, look, we have a commercial for our new auto dealership, and my criminal gang of like potheads, goth girls, and like just like stoners and like just random people off the street who have like never killed anyone in their life are like, now they're clocking money over hand over fist. They have the whole Midwest locked down. He's got his girlfriend. He goes to sleep with her. And then like the feds just like someone just raids and puts a black bag over his head, throws him in like a cargo plane, renders him to some black site, pulls the bag off his head, shines the light in his face. And they're like, you work for us now. Season over. And I'm like, the CIA is like, we've been hearing a lot of things about how good you're doing in Tulsa. We're moving you to our Beirut desk now.
Yeah, he's going to run Afghanistan by the end of the next season. He's going to be like, I got some poppy seeds in Afghanistan. I was able to, talk the Taliban into working with me.
Yeah, no, it is going to be like Charlie Wilson's War. But he's going to go up to the Taliban and be like, haven't you ever thought about like letting the girls read a book for once?
Look, take my sister. She, a lot of people think she wasn't so smart, but you know what? She ran the numbers better than anyone in the neighborhood, and that's because she knew how to read books and stuff.
Think of my sister. She thought about putting a drive-through at a weed dispensary. When they decide they're going to make it really successful, and she's like, "We'll sell cookies and have a drive-through."
And also she hips them to the world of drop shipping, and they're like, yes. We never considered that. No, this is such a perfect Trump America show, because like everyone can just be an independent criminal entrepreneur doing the crypto scams, drop shipping, weed selling, just like whatever you have it. But you need a leader. You need a leader like Donald J. Manfredi to inspire the people to become better, more criminal versions of themselves.
He's going to run a course at Quantico. And like at the beginning of the season, they're going to be like, so John or Dwight, how does the mafia work? And then he's going to give like a really eloquent speech to a bunch of CIA agents.
Yeah, like now that the CIA is introduced, there's like no upper limit for Dwight's triumphs.
No,
Like, Dwight is going to defeat the deep state.
for sure. 100%. He is going to string them along until episode 10. And then he's going to be like the president or like on the president's cabinet. He was able to tell the president, like, sometimes, man, you can run numbers on the government. I don't know. He's like, this politics thing's a real good scam over here.
Yeah,
it turns out the Pentagon needed 8 million catalytic converters.
Yes. That's what he's going to do. They'll get a Pentagon money for anything.
He'll replace federal income tax with like a weird lottery system.
Yes.
Martin Starr will take one look at like the Federal Reserve's books and be like, this can't possibly be right. I created an app to get all our money back.
I would love to see them get back on the gold standard at the end of Tulsa King season 3.
Yes.
Incredible.
You know, the thing about this Fugazi money is that there's nothing backing it up.
After Dwight like takes down the deep state, then like what's left? I mean, obviously the out I would have is like this character was introduced at age 97, but I don't think normal biology applies to him. But like, what would be next? Well, who could he possibly go against after that?
It doesn't. It would have to be the Chinese government. It feels like he might be going after the Chinese government in the next season. I don't know if it's going to be him versus the CIA. I think it's going to be him helping the CIA with an enemy that is far worse than Chicky or Bevilacqua or something like that. Like, it's like we got to take down the Chinese Communist Party or like North Korea. And I don't know how he's going to do it, but he's going to figure out a way to win like a Cold War with crime.
Like,
is what I would get.
Turns out Mahjong's just another form of gambling, and I don't know how that works.
I wish you could bet on the show.
Yeah.
Because now that the deep state's introduced, I think there's going to be like, if we're cribbing off Sons of Anarchy, there is going to be like a cartel storyline. And the cartel is going to be really scary, like face tattoos. Like the show is probably just going to like conflate them with MS-13. But like, obviously.
Mexico Super 13. That's what the gang stands for.
Yes.
Yeah. Mexico Spanish 13. But obviously these guys may seem scary, but they've never dealt with like a real mobster before, a true gentleman gangster. And like Dwight is going to take down Los Zetas with like 4 guys, 2 of which are former and actually probably current Uber drivers.
So what if we go to China? What if we go to China and maybe leak a virus out of a laboratory? Really give it to them over there.
Okay, I got an idea for a scam. We have something called the Black Eagle Trust. We put all this gold in the basement of the World Trade Center. We fabricate 19 Saudi and Egyptian nationals. And all the proof of our crime is in Building 7.
Well, the fucking thing is like, they ended last season like it was the end of the show. Like that everything turned out well. They ended this one saying like Sylvester Stallone is definitely going to live long enough to do a 3rd season. And you're right. I don't know where else you go after this other than, again, Sylvester Stallone uniting all of the America's crime families and going after China or North Korea is the only thing I can think of that he could be possibly doing.
Oh, wait. Do you think that they'll do like an Epstein character?
Yes.
That would be...
They will do an Epstein character, but like he'll learn the error of his ways and then become an ally of Dwight. He'll be in the crew at the end.
Exactly. He'll gotta have him of age and let him choose.
Not for nothing, Jeffrey, but I think 17's a little young. Just make sure to check the birth certificate, and then bing bang boom, we're gonna be human trafficking all over the country.
Dwight will literally sit him down and be like, you may think it's fun to hook up with these 15-year-olds, but they ain't ready yet. And this evil pedophile will be like, I never thought about it that way. I'm going to apologize to my victims, and I'll run a legal prostitution ring with you in Tulsa.
You got to give them a choice. It ain't right to just make them do it. You got to let them. You got to let them choose if they want to be human trafficked.
I read this book by this fat broad named Andrea Dworkin in prison. Turns out all penetrative sex is rape, at least in the heterosexual context. But that don't mean that it's okay to knock boots with a 15-year-old.
Dude, the quotes from books, they're so infrequent in the series. Like, he doesn't do it all that often, but he
quotes Machiavelli this season.
Yes. It's Machiavelli and then one other
Oscar
guy,
Wilde.
like Oscar Wilde. Okay, yeah, those two guys. Like, I'm picturing him like trying to read one of those books in prison, like that. Dwight just sitting down and reading an Oscar Wilde book would be that's enough for me, right? They need to do a prequel.
There was this guy, I know this guy. He was really into art. He bought a portrait of himself, but he just kept it in his attic. But the thing is, if you don't take care of the art, it starts looking like shit. So what I learned from that story is if you buy art, you gotta keep it someplace dry and with good lighting.
I read this book called Revolutionary Road. This woman, she performs badly in a community play. Then the whole marriage kaputs. You gotta support your wife's hobbies.
The prequel, if they could find a guy that is as impossible. Actually, they should just do a prequel and have Sylvester Stallone.
No, they should have Frank Stallone do it.
Oh, yeah. I would love to see them be like, no, this is 1993 Dwight Manfredi, and it's still Sylvester Stallone, but wearing like
exactly
stripes.
The same.
Yeah.
But I mean, you talked about like Stallone's. Look, God bless Stallone. He's an American icon. He's doing great work on this show. But like his face, man, like his nose and eyebrows look like Mr. Potato Head. It looks like someone just stuck them on his face. He like he's looking odd. He went to the plastic surgeon and was like, could you give me a Romulan with facial hair? That's what he was going for.
He has these strange veins right on his neck area. These just blue fucking. He's very vascular in the neck area.
I mean, like, imagine being as old as he is and being on that much gear. Like, it's fucking crazy.
Oh my God. His organ. I mean, you talked about getting bosses earlier. If you fought him, his organs would glow. You're like a Zelda boss. While we're like betting on things that will be in future episodes, I would like to lay a marker down. I think that there's going to be like a scary gangster rapper, but it's going to be like very dated. It's going to be like a 1990. It's going to be like NWA.
Yeah.
Like something from 30 years ago.
He's going to get in a turf war with Tyson, who also at one point wanted to be a rapper this season, and then just it never came up again. But you could see that happening too, because their weed store has a recording studio that Jelly Roll shows up to perform in and like fools Dwight. He's like, Dwight's like, you will maybe be a janitor someday. He sings a song and Dwight's like, you guys tricked me.
I think that like, because these are all like everything that I've ever seen on Facebook. And Brian, I know you're a huge fan of this genre of post as well, where people are like, oh, what if Chief Keef ran into Al Capone?
Two of Chicago's greatest.
Yeah, I think that sort of thing where people are like, these so-called gangsters, if they ever met Lucky Luciano, he'd show them a thing or two about respect. I think that's going to come to fruition. I think we're going to see something like that.
I want that. A boss battle between like the Crips and the Mafia and see who wins. And of course, it's going to be Dwight.
Dwight is going to unite the Bloods and the Crips. They're going to tie the bandanas together and they're going to be like, hey, Dwight hooked us up with these wind farms. Now we don't have to bang anymore.
He would literally go up to the Bloods and Crips and be like, I don't get what you guys don't like about each other. You're both primary colors.
Hey, you got the red, you got the blue, and I'm white. You got some America right there, baby. And
God,
you mentioned Lucky Luciano.
I always
always forget that Terrence Winter is the head writer for this show. who did The Sopranos, Boardwalk Empire, and Wolf of Wall Street, which is why like I like that he's doing this experiment where like all those shows are just about how like totally evil and depraved like the criminal mindset is, and how like it is just like a one-way ticket to hell. But now it's just like he gets to portray a gangster, unlike Gyp Rossetti, like from Boardwalk Empire, who like a character who like every time he's on screen, you're like on edge because he could just kill someone at any moment for any reason. Whereas Dwight is just a guy who's like, yeah, he's a criminal, but he's just so basically kind and decent to everyone around him that like, can he really be called a criminal?
But also not really decent to anybody around him. Like everybody that's in his crew was strong-armed by him at some point.
Yeah, but that's what a leader needs to do. He needs to bring the people along with him. They may not have wanted to do it, but that's because they lacked motivation, leadership. They needed a little bit of strong-arming to become successful.
And that's why your boss is such a dick. Like that's exactly, he has to be at first, and then after a while he gets over it and he's nice to you, I guess. He imparts his boss wisdom on you, and then you can maybe one day be a boss somewhere.
I would like to point out that Terrence Winter, there's another seminal work that he did in his career. Get Rich or Die Trying, the movie.
Oh, the 50 Cent movie?
Oh, did
yes.
he?
Yeah. There's actually,
I'm looking.
There's a joke in Sopranos season 6 about that. Like Christopher, when he's dating Juliana Skiff, he goes, she's sick, and he comes home with a DVD, and he's like, I got that new 50 Cent movie. They were giving it away for free at the car
I remember
wash.
that.
Yeah.
I actually looked at his Rotten Tomatoes for some reason, and he also did a movie called Brooklyn Rules that says a college student, Freddie Prinze Jr., feels torn by loyalty to his friends and a desire to earn a law degree and escape from his old neighborhood. So Freddie Prinze Jr. is a mafia boss, and Alec Baldwin being in the supporting cast. I might watch that now.
I mean, like, I guess another thing I like about this show is how utterly bedraggled and bereft it, like, I think realistically portrays what is left of the Italian mafia in New York City. Because it really is just like your crew is just the 4 guys who sit in like a coffee shop staring at each other all day going, what the fuck's the matter with you? Where the fuck you been? Hey, well, someone pick up around here. And like they're making money stealing Amazon packages.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. That's who's stealing the Amazon packages.
It's Go West, Go West, old man. It should be the subhead for this show. But like, it's like the old mafia, that's done. All that racism shit is over. Now we need a diverse working class coalition of potheads, wannabe rappers, goth chicks, Native Americans, and just anyone who wants to get on board for Donald Trump's America.
It's
like every group that broke Republican this election is part of Dwight's crew.
Yeah. He just doesn't have a gay guy yet, but he will get a gay guy eventually.
Oh my, yeah. No, there's going to be a gay guy, a rapper. There's going to be everything. It really, it's the exact Trump 2020 and 2024 coalition. I'm trying to think. I think the most realistic portrayal I've ever seen of the mafia before this is in Kill a Season, where the mafia is just on standby to butcher dead bodies for Cameron.
Or like in Donnie Brasco, where they're just like hammering open parking meters for coins.
The mafia is really, like, Rudy really did a number on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Rico more than anything. You could really ruin any organization with Rico, but it does make me sad. Like when I read that, like both the mafia and the Yakuza are like dwindling, I really feel like there should be like a grace period to let them rebuild a little.
Or like you should, like, if you're a violent criminal brother, like the ancient criminal brotherhood, like the Yakuza or the Cosa Nostra, I think they should just be grandfathered in. And if you maintain an unbroken tradition of crime for like a couple centuries, you should just be allowed to like do some prostitution, do some gambling, just give the people what they want, and do it most importantly with class and style.
And pretend not to do drugs. Pretend not to sell drugs.
And pretend like you're not selling fentanyl.
Yeah. Every mafia guy ever. We don't push drugs because that ruins communities.
We don't, we don't sell drugs in our grandmother's neighborhood, but everyone else, fuck them.
Yeah.
And what if my grandmother copped a bag of skag?
Guy walks out on his grandma shooting heroin. This is why we don't do it over here.
Can you think about how annoying it would be to show your grandmother how to like smoke an OxyContin? like getting her to use an iPad is already like awful.
No,
That's designed for them.
Wait. Your grandma, like she probably grew up in the Great Depression where they were like, heating their house with like shoe polish or whatever. I think they could figure out how to fucking cook pills down. It's just the apps and stuff. They don't the email and PDF they don't get.
Yeah.
That's what I'm collecting now is old morphine bottles and stuff off eBay. I've been buying like old heroin bottles and old morphine bottles.
Oh, back when it was like a medicine?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I like am bidding on this like German, it's like a cup that German pharmacists use to measure stuff, and it just has heroin on it. And I'm like, oh, I need that. That I need.
It used to be so pro-social. Like Hermann Goering would just like go to, the Wehrmacht pharmacist and be like, 50 bottles of morphine, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I got a toothache. Here's a bunch of cocaine. Enjoy.
Yeah, here's an ounce of pure cocaine.
Someone used to be so good.
Someone told me,
by the way, and when all the mafia families are dwindling and going away, look at the fucking state of things now.
Yeah. It's bad, I think.
No, yeah. Like in an ideal world, there would be no RICO Act. I'm against the RICO Act just on principle.
It's not fair.
Unconstitutional.
It's just not. It's not fair.
It's not fair. More than anything, it's not fair. I don't like that. Do you imagine if King Von had like a Dwight type figure in his life? Imagine if Lil Durk did. Lil Durk would not be on trial for federal murder charges.
I mean, no criminal would. Well, all criminals would be defending themselves if.
Well, yeah.
They were into Dwight. I mean, that is a thing that I like about this is that. Imagining a world where I, as a stupid idiot, could get in trouble and then talk my way out of it to a court of law that's a beautiful world to me. Like that, and that's how you could help the mafia too. Just be like, hey, they're allowed to defend themselves, and there's no rules anymore. We start over, and the jury just has to be like, yeah, that's fine. Because that's
Have you
what
ever
they did in
seen
this.
that Vin Diesel movie, Find Me Guilty?
Oh, it's a great movie actually.
Yeah.
Very good. Sidney Lumet.
Yes.
I don't have many further thoughts about Tulsa King. I just have a few minor just remembrances, and I guess the one that comes to mind is when Tyson is taking his dad around in the Navigator before it blows up, and he's like his old jalopy is broken down, and he's like, Dad, I can drive you around, and like it's like. His dad reacts to being in a Navigator like he's never been in a car with air conditioning or like a CD player even.
Yes.
I say CD player like it's 1997 or whatever. But,
wow.
But he was just like, oh my God, son, this is amazing. And I do want to point out that Tyson's dad is played by another all-star. Hard to tell because the character doesn't much to do with it. But that's Michael Beach, who you may remember as the leader of the Grim Bastards on Sons of Anarchy. And if you're a movie mindset fan, one of the most frightening characters I've ever seen portrayed in a movie, Pluto from One False Move, who plays a truly terrifying psychopath in that movie. But so the scene where he's taking his son around to his plumbing jobs, and it is revealed that he is paid for work with chili.
Yes.
And he's like, boy, you don't even know. This is so-and-so's famous chili. This is better than a paycheck. And it's just like, wait a second. No wonder his bitch ass son is like getting involved with Dwight Manfredi. He's doing jobs for food. Come on.
Plumbers like make good money. You have to fuck up so bad to like be known as the plumber that can be paid in chili. Like have it maybe okay if your heart's too big and like you fix some old lady stuff and she's like, I just have my SSI check, I'll pay you in chili. That could happen once. But if everyone in probably all of Oklahoma is paying you in chili, you have a rep as just a doormat.
Chili in the oddest container for chili too, by the way. It's not in like a pot. It's in like
an aluminum foil
sheet.
tray. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I guess chili could be different in Oklahoma, although I don't believe that. I spent a summer there and chili was the same. So
we haven't talked about him much, but I do want to give Bevilacqua his due, played by Frank Grillo. You know, I really loved Grillo on this show, and I was so happy when it turned out he wasn't going to die and is just going to be friends with Dwight now, because like the team up of them was just so great. But once again, it's just like a testament to the show that like every scene that you see Grillo in, he's either like doing like cowboy, like he's either splitting wood, cleaning guns, and doing cowboy shit with a belt buckle that's the size of a hubcap, or he's just like sitting in a room with his underlings being like, "What the fuck you talking about?
Yeah,
keep your fucking mouth shut." And then every scene he's in with Dwight, he's like literally looking Dwight dead in the eye and being like, "I'm going to fucking kill you and your family." Like, no, like, what do I want from you? I want a bullet between your eyes right now. And then by the end, they're just like, they squash it. It's cool. Everyone's getting paid.
Yeah. Like, everybody, he gets exactly what he wanted in the end because he shows Dwight that he has the guts to say no to him. So he shoots Chicky. And then Dwight's like, "You earn 50% now." Or
he was going to give him a 25% kickback, but then he's like, "Yeah, you earned the 50 just by killing a man in front of me
in my
for seemingly no reason."
Yeah. No, it seemed like everything was going to go well, and then he just like, "I'll just shoot him in the head." And it felt like they were running out of time for the show, which is crazy because it's a 35 minutes an episode, which I also love, by the way.
Yeah, no, there is definitely like the pacing and length of the episode gives me the same vibe as like the essays that the kids who like had to read everything aloud in class would write.
Yeah.
So like by the time you get to the third paragraph, you're just running through it like this, talk really fast.
Yeah. The end of this season was so weird because he gives a speech in a white suit, and then he gets picked up by the CIA. Like he gives a speech, Chicky gets shot, he gets picked up by the CIA, and this all happens in the span of like 5 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, like I to returning, like Tulsa King is the perfect show for our times. You know, like there's been too much TV that's hard to watch.
Yes.
There's too much TV that's painful to watch. Like, you know, it's like this is a like Breaking Bad is over. You know, Breaking Bad, everyone loved the show that like every episode felt like a, you know, like I said, the screws tightening just a notch more.
Yes.
And like until it became excruciating. And that previously, that was how America saw crime. But now in the second Donald Trump era, we're ready for an era of crime that's just good feelings and good times.
That's right. That is right. It's beautiful. I love crime.
I know we have to wrap up soon, but I do have to ask, did you guys see that clip from the new Taylor Sheridan show, Landman, that's going around?
Oh, no, I haven't seen it. I mean, I've seen trailers for the show with Billy Bob.
Wait, let me see if I can just play one little clip from the new Taylor Sheridan verse, because this is the dominant TV mood of our moment, and I thought that this was pretty funny.
Are you two having sex?
Daddy.
Well, I had to ask.
Of course.
And that's what I get for asking. Are you being careful?
Yeah, we have a rule and we stick to it.
I'm going to regret asking you this, but what is this rule?
As long as he never comes in me, he can come anywhere on me.
Oh.
I'm going to look at a Dr. Pepper. You want anything?
No.
Oh.
Taylor
now I gotta
Sheridan's
watch
World,
that.
man.
Yeah, I need to watch that now.
Yeah.
I saw the beginning of it where it seemed that Billy Bob Thornton was outsmarting somebody, outsmarting a terrorist, I believe, or somebody. Because I started playing it to test the sound, and
whatever caused Billy Bob Thornton to go into gambling debt, I fully support it because his turn as like a late in career TV star has been great. I don't know if you
Did
guys
you watch
watched
Goliath?
Yeah,
Goliath was awesome. The first season of Goliath is
fucking
fantastic.
love Goliath.
no,
Yeah. Shout out to whatever like Michael Clayton illegal underground gambling ring he's indebted to. Thank you guys.
All right, we're wrapping up for there. That does it for Tulsa King season 2 until season 3. It's just like I want it to be now.
I know it
I
sucks that you
I
have
want to
to
get in a
wait.
time machine and to step out to watch episode 1 of season 3 of Tulsa King. I need to know what happens. But yeah, that'll do it for today's episode. I want to thank Bryan Quinby again. Bryan, if people want Guys, your show, if they want more Bryan Quinby in their life, where should they go?
Well, it's Guys Podcast, patreon.com/Guys Podcast. You can get on the Bull tier, which is audio, or the Hot Wife tier, which is video. I have a disgusting show.
Listen to the show to learn more.
Yeah.
No, and like it's part of a very important movement. Very important movement about letting single men into swingers clubs. This is
you know what? They can't be trusted.
Hey, this sounds like a Dwight Manfredi thing. He should open a swingers club only for single men. He'd be like, hey, so it turns out there's this thing called gay bars.
From what I'm hearing on single guy night, there aren't a lot of women there. Like a lot of the clubs will have single guy night, but it won't have the couples that are there. Like it was just a bunch of single guys leering at my wife. It's like, what the fuck do you expect? Everybody's there to fuck every person in that room. So yeah, we're trying. We're going to see if we can help them out.
All right. Well, that does it for today's episode. Once again, thanks to Bryan, and thank you to you, the listener. Until next time, everybody, bye-bye. Signing off.